Friends, let us start with a new concept, that is an acceptance of deposit. Public deposit is an important source of finance for the short term requirement for the company. Now, we can say in the acceptance of deposit, we are specifically going to learn about the public company, because the public company is the only company who have the authority to raise the capital in the form of deposit from the general public, whereas the company in the private limited, they are not authorized to, they don't have an authority to raise the capital from the general public, whereas they can raise the capital in the form of deposit from the members, directors, and their friends and relatives in other way. Whereas the company, public limited company, can only have the authority to raise the capital from the general public. So here we can say acceptance of deposit, or we can say public deposit is an important source of finance for the short term requirement for the company, and the company receives the fixed deposit from the public for the period ranging from 6 months to 36 months. So that 6 months to 36 months. So here we can say that the minimum number of days the person can invest public can invest the capital in the form of deposit is for the 6 months, and the maximum duration for which he can deposit is capital in the company is for 36 months. So we can say after the end of the 36 months, each and every public limited company, whatever the amount of capital they have been accepted in the form of deposit, they have to repay back the capital along with the interest to all the investors of the company respectively. Such deposits are known as the public deposits, we know it. Under this method, general public is invited to deposit their savings with the company for varied period. Varied period means for 1 year, for 1.5 year, something like that, whenever the people are interested, and the amount and the duration in which they wanted to invest, the company can offer such kind of schemes related to their investment in the company. Interest is paid by the company on such deposit. The company issued deposit receipt. So the acknowledgement that has been given by the company to the investors of the public deposit is deposit receipt. That is an acknowledgement which shows, which represent that yes, this particular member have invested his or her capital in the company in the form of public deposit. The deposits are either secured or unsecured loan offered by the company. As we have seen in the debentures are secured. In the same manner, the deposits can also be secured, as well as it can be unsecured. We can say most of the times the company that raises the capital in the form of deposit is mostly the secured deposits. Are very safe deposits, are very secured, because the directors of the company have already created a provision related to the acceptance of deposit from the general public. So the company who have created the provision, only that company are allowed to raise the capital from general public. If the company doesn't make any kind of provision regarding the repayment of capital to the investors of such kind in that company, they cannot raise the capital from the general public. So provision, we can say there are certain rules, provisions they have to do the follow, and accordingly they can raise the capital in the form of deposits. Let us see the meaning. As per section 2 subsection 31 of the Companies Act 2030, deposits include any receipt of money by way of deposit. So if any particular person or the company have received any money in the form of deposit, that can be represent it as a public deposit or loan, or in any other form by a company. So if the company has got deposit, if the company has got any kind of loan or in form of investment in any other form rather than the deposit, we can call such amount also as a public deposit. But this does not include the categories of the amount as may be prescribed in the consultation with the Reserve Bank of India. So Reserve Bank of India has also given certain amount, and if the company has got certain kind of an investment in that company, it cannot be considered as a public deposit, and that has been given on page number 26. That is the first one. any amount received from the central government or the state government. So if any amount received by a company from the central government or from the state government, company cannot consider that particular amount as a public deposit. Second one, any amount received as a loan from banking company. So if the company has received a loan from any banking company, that cannot be considered as a deposits. Any amount received from the foreign government or international bank. So if any amount is raised by a company from the foreign government or from the international, that also cannot be considered as a deposits. Fourth one, any amount received by a company from any other company. So if the company borrows some funds from another company, that cannot be considered as a deposits. Okay. Fifth one, any amount raised by issuing the commercial paper. So it is a kind of an instrument where the company can raise the finance. So if the company issues a commercial paper, that cannot be considered as a public deposit. Any amount, 6.1, any amount raised by issue of bonds. So bonds are also another kind of source where the company can raise the finance. If any amount is being raised by a company in the form of issuing the bonds to the investor, that cannot be considered as a public deposit. Any amount to receive the interest. So if any particular person have donated certain amount, that cannot be considered as a public deposit. Any amount received by way of subscription to any shares or debentures. So if any investor subscribe the shares and debentures of the company, that cannot be considered as a public deposit. So these are the total 8 points are given, and if the company receives such amount, if the company receives amount in such form, that cannot be considered as a public deposits. So I hope that you all are very clear related to the public deposit. And let us see the next concept, that is the bond. Bond is a debt security. Debt security means it is a borrowed capital for the company, which the company have to repay back to the investor along with the interest. And there are certain rate at which the bonds can be issued to the investor. So before issuing the bond to the investor, company predetermine the rate of interest, and after the specific time of maturity, the company have to repay back the capital amount along with the interest to the bondholders of the company. So here he is a creditor of the company, he gets the fixed interest as we have seen. And now according to the Webster's dictionary, a bond is an interest bearing certificate, means it is a certificate which interest is liable for that particular person to get. It is issued by the government. The bond can be issued by the government, the central government or the state government can issue the bond, and the bonds can also be issued by the firm, that is a corporate, that is a joint stock company can also issue the bonds, promising to pay the holder a specific sum at a specified date. Promising to pay the holder specific sum, that is a rate of interest at a specified date and time, and at the end of at the time of maturity, the company have to repay back the amount of bonds, that has been invested in the bond to the investors of the company. And this kind of, we can say, the bond is been issued for the longer period of time. That means we can say it can be issued for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25, 50 years. So the maximum duration can be there in terms of bond that has been issued by the government or been issued by the company. Now here one more thing can also be there. If the government issue the bonds and the person invests certain amount of money in the government issued bonds, then that particular person will get the exemption in their income tax. So that is also one of the benefits that the person can have. If the person invests its money into the government bond, they can claim the exemption up to that amount that has been invested by them in the bond in their income tax return. So they don't have to pay that much extra. So the investment done by the investor in the government bond, that is exempted from the tax, whereas investment done by the investor in the company bond, that has not been exempted by the government. So here that is a basic difference between the bonds issued by the central government, state government, or the bonds issued by the company. Thus a company borrow money and issue bond as an evidence of debt instrument, that is a debt capital for the company. Interest is payable on the bond at a fixed interval or on the time of maturity, and there are different kinds of bonds are there. There is not only one kind of bond, but there are different types of bonds are there, and accordingly the person can choose and select, and they can have the options of getting the dividend. It can be at the fixed interval of time, and it can be at the end of the maturity period. Let us see the features related to the bond. The first feature is nature of finance. It is a debt finance. Debt finance means a borrowed capital. They are like a credit for the company. It provides a long-term finance. The bonds can be issued for the longer period of time, that is for the terms of 5 years, 10 years, 25 years and 50 years. Such time duration the bonds can be issued to the investor. Second point, status of bondholder. The bondholder are the creditors of the company because they are the debt finance. It is like a debt finance for the company. So the status of the bondholder will be the creditors for the company. You can see in the balance sheet liability side, creditors of the company you can able to find out such amount. Since they are the creditors and non-owners, they are not entitled to participate in the general meeting. So we know very well only the owners of the company and that to the equity shareholder of the company have certain rights that has been given according to the memorandum and articles of association of the company, whereas the creditors of the company, they don't have any such rights regarding the voting, regarding the participation in the meeting, regarding the inspection of books of account. If you are the creditors of the company, your amount will be safe and secured. You are just bothered about the investment that has been done by the company, and accordingly you are going to get their capital back at the end of the maturity period along with the rate of interest. They don't have the voting rights, and hence there is no participation by the bondholders in the management of the company. The third point is return on bond. The bondholders get a fixed rate of interest. It is payable at the regular interval all on the time of maturity. So the interest that has been paid to the bondholder, it has been predetermined. Predetermined means what? It is already been decided by the company, and at the end of the maturity period, the company will, the person will able to get the interest. It can be paid at a regular interval, that is after the end of every year, or it can be paid at the time of maturity. The last point, that is repayment. The bond have a specific maturity date and when the principal amount is repaid. So if the person have invested the bond for the 5 years, they will get their money back at the end of the 5 year. The principal I am talking about, interest that can be paid at the time of maturity or at the regular interval. Investors can get the capital back at the 10 years, 25 years or 50 years at the time duration whatever they have agreed to invest the capital into the money in the form of bonds. So here I hope that all the 4 points are very clear to you all. Let us move on with the next concept, that is American Depository Receipt and Global Depository Receipt. I hope that you remember the concept that I have explained you while explaining the diagram of source of finance for the company. In that ADRN/GDR is also written over there. I have given the short description about the ADR and GDR when I was explaining you that particular diagram. Let us see more detail about the ADR and GDR. In India, the shares of public company are listed and traded on the various stock exchanges. Obviously, the public limited company, they have to list its shares, and that can be listed on the stock exchanges of the various cities. As we live in Bombay, as we live in Mumbai, so there is a stock exchange called Bombay Stock Exchange, and at the national level also there is a stock exchange that is called the National Stock Exchange. With the adoption of free economic policy and with the adoption of the term called globalization, some Indian companies are now free to list and trade its shares on the foreign stock exchange also. So after the adoption of free economy, after the adoption of globalization, various Indian companies, they have got an opportunity to list their shares on the stock exchanges of international market, and they can also raise the funds from the international investors. And because of that reason, ADR as well as the GDR is a two type of tools which has been invented by the government related to such kind of investment. We can say in Indian with the adoption of free economic policy and due to the globalization, Indian companies shares are also listed and traded on the foreign stock exchanges like New York Stock Exchange and National Association of Securities Dealer Automated Quotation, that is NASDAQ. It is the stock exchange of Dubai. So we can say the companies, Indian companies can raise their list its shares to such stock exchange. To list these shares on the stock exchanges, the company has to comply with the policies and various other rules and regulations that has been stipulated to those stock exchanges. So here the policies of these stock exchanges are different than the policies of Indian stock exchange. If you list your shares in the New York Stock Exchange, then the policies, rules and regulations are different. If you are going to raise in the London Stock Exchange, then the rules and regulations are different. If you wanted to list your shares in the Bombay Stock Exchange, then rules and regulations are different. So different countries are there, different stock exchanges are there, their rules, their policies, their terms and the conditions are very different, and each and every company are required to follow such rules and regulations so that they can list their shares to that such stock exchange. But here the company, the Indian company which cannot list their shares directly on the foreign exchange, the company who doesn't comply to such policies or rules and regulation, and in direct way they cannot list their shares, so there is a different method through which they can raise their shares from the they can issue the shares and raise the finance from the public. Here it has been given very specifically, those Indian companies which cannot list their shares directly on the foreign stock exchange get listed indirectly. They can list their shares indirectly by using ADR and GDR here, by issuing ADR and GDR. Let us see more about in ADR and GDR. Page number 27, starting point ADR and GDR. That is ADR is been calculated in terms of dollars, okay, and GDR is been calculated in terms of euro. So European Union is there. In European Union there are many countries are there, they follow the same and the similar currency, that is euro, and accordingly the GDR will be traded in euro. Whereas if you wanted to trade with ADR, you have to strictly stick to the stock exchange, you have to strictly stick to the US dollars, okay. So it has been denominated in the instrument traded in USA and the European Stock Exchange. Indian companies issue shares to its intermediary called a depository. So depository is also kind of an institution like bank which has been set up so that they can raise the shares, they can indirectly sell their shares to the investors of an international market, and accordingly the investors can invest and they can get the benefits of investment into the Indian company. So here the Bank of New York City, the Bank of Citigroup, these are the companies that these are the banks or the companies, financial companies that can act as an intermediary. So the Bank of New York, so if the Indian companies wanted to issue the shares and they wanted to raise the capital from the New York, from US New York, then what they do, they will issue the ADR to the Bank of New York or the Citigroup Bank, and the Citigroup Bank and the Bank of New York, they will sell this ADR, that is an instrument, to the investors of that particular company, and accordingly the company can get the finance from the international market. These companies act as a depository. This depository bank issue ADR and GDR to the investors against their shares. The ADR/GDR represent the fixed number of shares. So if a particular ADR is there, then a stipulated amount has been fixed for the specified terms of shares, and accordingly the investor can invest it into the ADR or the GDR of that particular instrument. The ADR/GDR are traded like regular shares. You can buy the share, you can buy it, you can sell it, you can earn the profit, and if there is a performance is low, there can be a loss also for the international investors. They can list on the stock exchanges. ADR and GDR can also be listed on the stock exchanges. The prices fluctuate depending upon the demand and supply, and the demand and supply depend upon the performance of the company. Both ADR and GDR are the depository receipt, but only difference is the location where they are traded. So if it is an ADR, then the full form of ADR is American Depository Receipt, and this kind of receipt is being traded only in USA. And if it is a GDR, then it is traded other than USA. That means it can be traded in Europe, it can be traded in America, it can be traded in Europe, it can be traded in Japan, it can be traded in Russia. Other than USA, GDR can be traded in any other country or in any other continent. Non-resident Indian, that is NRI, and foreign nationals can invest their money in India by purchasing ADR and GDR. So if the people are living in America, they have to purchase ADR. If the people living other than America, if there is a people live in UK, or if the people are living in France or Germany or Russia, they have to purchase the GDR. They can buy ADR and GDR using their regular equity trading account. So depository is there, they will have a particular account, and accordingly the investors of that particular country can operate. And there are the exchanges on which the GDR is being traded. It is given here. The first one is the London Stock Exchange, second one is the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, Nasdaq, that is there in the Dubai, Singapore Stock Exchange, and Hong Kong Stock Exchange. The next concept that we are going to learn is the commercial banks. Commercial banks, you know very well, there are two things there. One is the central bank, that is the Reserve Bank of India, that is a banker to the government, and under the Reserve Bank of India there is a commercial bank. In commercial bank, that can be public limited banks as well as the private banks. Public limited banks may we can say Union Bank of India is there, State Bank of India is there, and in private bank there can be HDFC bank is there, ICICI bank is there. There are so many banks are there, and all these banks, SBI, HDFC, Kotak Mahindra, all these banks are known as a commercial bank. There are number of sources of financing for the short term and the medium term of requirement of finance to the company. So these commercial banks can also be one of the source from where the company can raise the finance for meeting the short term as well as the medium term requirement. Among these, the commercial bank constitute the most predominant source, that is the most trusted source from where the company can get the finance. Commercial bank play the significant role in the corporate financing in India. Commercial bank, by introducing the variety of deposit schemes to the individual depositors, need mop up the saving of the people and make use of this saving to meet the varied requirements of the corporate enterprises. So there are many types of accounts are being offered by the commercial bank, that is saving account, fixed deposit, recurring account, and we can say current account is also there. So various types of account has been given to the person offered by the commercial bank to the people. Accordingly, the people will operate their account, they can invest some amount in that particular amount, and that particular fund is been mobilized by the commercial bank from that particular amount to the investment in the corporate financing type. So here commercial bank assists the corporate enterprises by providing the various things. First one, by granting the term loans to the corporate, that is the first one, by providing the term loan to the corporate. Second one, by subscribing to the shares and debentures of the company. Commercial bank also subscribe the shares and debentures of the company. And the third one, by underwriting the issue of securities to the company. Here this term, that is an underwriting. Underwriting is very important thing for any public limited company or in a private limited company. Both the company, they wanted to have an underwriter. Now what is the job of an underwriter? The company which has been newly established company, the promoter, what they are going to do, the promoter will going to bear all the expenses, they do all the legal formality, they do all their paperwork in order to establish a company. But according to the Indian Companies Act 2013, there should be the minimum amount of fund that has been there in a company so that the company can operate, they can start functioning their business according to their registration with the ROC. So here if the company doesn't able to get that minimum amount of funds, then there is a rule that the company have to shut down. The company immediately have to wind up their business. If the newly formed, newly registered company, they doesn't able to meet the minimum capital requirement for the operation that has been prescribed by the ROC and according to the Indian Companies Act, then such company have to wind up, such company have to shut down. So here this particular concept comes into the picture, that is an underwriting. Underwriting means what? Giving a guarantee or warranty to the promoter of the company that whatever the amount of unsold shares will be there, this particular commercial bank will give the guarantee that if there is an unsold amount of unsold share is there in a company, for meeting up the minimum capital requirement, we will going to purchase the shares. So the amount of shares that is been remained unsold in the market, that will be purchased by the commercial bank. So that is known as the underwriting of shares, and that the guarantee and the warranty has been given by the commercial bank, and that is one of the most important services provided to the newly formed and registered companies. So here commercial bank also plays an important role in providing the short term finance. They have to become the primary source of financing the working capital of the business. Now here working capital requirement will be more for the manufacturing company. So if any particular company has been registered that is manufacturing the goods for the consumption or for the use of the people, then the working capital requirement will be very high. The working capital requirement will be more. But the company who is associated in the service sector, that is telecom, or we can say telecom services is there, or service sector industry is there, then there will be the working capital requirement as compared to the manufacturing company will be less. So if the company is engaged in manufacturing of goods, then the working capital requirement will be more, and if the company is only dealing in the activities of providing the services, and then the working capital requirement will be less. So accordingly the bank will provide the finance for meeting up the working capital requirement. In India, the primary source of financing the working capital are bank credit and the trade credit. So bank credit and trade credit are the two sources from where the working capital requirement can be met up. Now come on page number 28. There are the banks who have introduced many innovative schemes for the disbursement of credit, and they are as follows. The first one, that is an overdraft. A company having a current account with the bank and is allowed to overdraft facility. So if any particular person or if any particular businessman or of a company have a current account with the bank, then the overdraft facility is a facility which is been provided by the bank to that business person or the company that have a current account with them. Under this, the borrower can withdraw the fund as and when needed. That is the extra amount, whatever the extra amount that they needed or they wanted to have it in the business, they can borrow it. It is allowed to overdraw on his current account up to the certain credit limit which has been sanctioned by the bank. So according to the business and according to the balance sheet and the financial position of the company, there is certain margin which has been decided and fixed up by the bank for that particular company, and accordingly the company can withdraw the amount in the form of overdraft from a stipulated bank up to that specified amount. Company cannot withdraw the amount more than the specified limit or the margin which has been decided by the commercial bank. Okay, so here within this stipulated limit, any number of withdrawings are permitted. Repayment can be made whenever required during the time period. So there is no we can say there is no such time period has been decided that within this time duration you have to repay back the money to the bank, the amount that you have withdrawn in the form of overdraft. There is no such kind of compulsion. You can pay it as per the business proceedings will takes place and as per the capital that has been getting by the company. So whenever the required during the time, the interest is determined on the basis of the actual amount withdrawn. So whenever there is a requirement of the extra amount by the company can withdraw it in the form of an overdraft. However, the amount that has been sanctioned and the amount that has been withdrawn, the interest rate is charged on the amount withdrawn, not the amount sanctioned. For example, if the company thinks that he need a capital for a particular transaction, so if he thinks that I need 1 lakh of rupees, so he will go into the bank and he will give an overdraft facility application to the bank manager for 1 lakh of rupees. But if the manager have withdrawn only rupees 50,000, so here the company have to pay the interest only on the amount of 50,000 which has been utilized by that bank and which has been utilized by the company from the bank, and not on the amount that is on rupees 1 lakh. So 1 lakh that has been sanctioned and amount that has been utilized, that is 50,000, the company have to pay the interest only on the 50,000 rupees. Second one is a cash credit. It is also an important and the popular form of finance. This form is credit. This form of credit is operated in the same manner as an overdraft facility. So there is not much difference between an overdraft facility provided by the bank and the cash credit facility provided by the commercial bank to the company or the business people. The borrower can withdraw the amount from his cash credit account up to the stipulated limit based on the security or the margin that has been provided by the company to the commercial bank. Cash credit is given against the pledge or hypothecation of goods or by providing alternative security. So if the company provides certain margin, or if they provide certain hypothecation of goods, then the company can provide the cash credit facility. Interest is charged on the outstanding amount borrowed and not on the credit limit sanctioned. So the basic difference between the overdraft and the cash credit is that overdraft facility is provided in the current account, and the amount that has been paid to the in order to set up certain business transactions by the business people, whereas in the cash credit this particular amount is being credited into the cash credit account and the person can withdraw the amount, and accordingly he can meet the requirement of the business transactions. Then third one, that is the cash loan. Under this, the total amount of loan is credited by the bank to the borrower's account. Interest is payable on the actual balance outstanding. So here cash loan means what? The company, they have to apply for the certain amount of loan. They will give the application will be approved, the loan will be sanctioned, and accordingly the company can utilize such amount in the form of loan for which meeting its business requirement or setting up any particular activity that is being decided by the company. So that is the third point, cash loan. And the last one, that is the discounting of bills. As you know very well, you have studied in your accounts the discounting of bills. The drawer of the bill, that is the seller, can receive the money from the drawee, that is from the buyer, on the due date or after the due date. The drawer can receive the money before the due date by discounting the bill with the bank. This is nothing but selling the bill to the bank, and the bank will give the money to the drawer less than the face value of the bill that is being drawn. So here the bills of exchange can also be one of the source from where the company can get the finance. So we can say in the discounting of bills, a particular transaction is being done by the company with the third party. If the company has sold a commodity of rupees 1 lakh, then the purchaser of the commodity has only given 50,000 rupee to the company, whereas the bill which has been made by the company is of rupees 1 lakh, and the time duration that has been provided from the company to that particular buyer is for 30 days. So company cannot go to the buyer and they can demand rest of the 50,000 of rupees that has been outstanding to him. So here what the company will do, the person from the company, they can take the bill, they can go to the bank and they can demand for the rest of the amount that they have to get from the buyer. So the bank will discount certain amount. So total outstanding amount was rupees 50,000. So the bank will discount certain amount of the face value. Face value is of rupees 50,000. The discounting that is being done by the commercial bank is somewhere around 2,000 rupees. The bank will take the bill, he will deduct 2,000 of rupees, and rest of the 48,000 will be provided by the bank to the person of the company. And when there is a due date is there on that particular bill, the person from the bank, they will go to the party and he will collect all 50,000 rupees. So discounting of bill is an important source where the company can get the finance if there is an emergency or is a need arises for the company to have the capital or have the cash in the business. So I hope that you all have understood the 4 important concepts related to the commercial bank, that is an overdraft facility, amount that is an excess amount that has been provided by the bank to the business people, cash credit facility, again the over and the above limited amount that has been provided on the providing certain security to the bank. The third one is a cash loan, application of loan, and the bank will sanction certain amount in the form of loan. The last one is the discounting of bills, that is people from the company, they go to the bank, they will discount certain bill from the bank, they will get rest of the money. The bank from the people on the due date will go and collect the total amount that has been written on the face value of that particular bill. So here I hope that you all are very much clear about the overdraft, cash credit and discounting of bills. Thank you.